Good afternoon, my name is Alena Shautsova. I'm an immigration attorney from New York. In today's video, we're going to discuss regional migration plan that was announced by the Biden administration today. The plan was a result of cooperation by multiple countries from the Western Hemisphere, and it's designed to address the issue of global migration. Specifically, it addresses three major causes of global migration: job search, protection, and family reunification. Thank you very much for watching. If this is your first time on my channel, welcome. Don't forget to like, share this video, subscribe to my channel if you like this video. On this channel, I regularly provide updates with regard to the most interesting immigration news and share my tips. So if you are an immigrant, or you are sponsoring an immigrant, or you're just interested in immigration news, welcome, and let's start. I think this news is particularly interesting to us, people who are in the United States and who are waiting for immigration reform. Why? If you recall, several years ago, the Trump administration tried to address migration causes by entering into bilateral agreements with other countries such as Ecuador, Guatemala, if I'm not mistaken. But those agreements were kind of choppy and sort of discriminatory. They were criticized a lot, but the aim of those agreements was to keep migrants who are seeking entry into the United States, and particularly asylum seekers, in other countries, so they would simply not come to the United States, or they will be resettled in other than the United States countries. So when Biden administration took office, they broke those agreements and said that those agreements were unfair, unjust, and should not be followed. However, just recently, as a result of Biden administration efforts, we come into a new stage of very similar agreements, but they're more humane and they address causes of migration perhaps more thoroughly than it was tried or attempted to be done by the Trump administration. Specifically, during the Summit of Americas, the countries of the Western Hemisphere came into agreement to create certain programs that would allow for work visas in various countries for the migrants who are seeking work visas, also would allow for family reunification programs to go forward, and also would allow for refugee resettlement. If you actually read the program or announcement, you will see that numbers that are announced in the White House, for example, release of fact sheet, are kind of symbolic. Well, for example, let's see, about 10,000 to 20,000 workplaces would be announced by one of the countries, I believe Mexico, which of course is not enough, nearly enough, to address the migration issue that the Western Hemisphere is facing. However, what we are seeing here is, in my mind at least, a sort of continuing policy of the United States to try to address the root causes of migration. Again, it was tried to be done by the Trump administration, but was very choppy. And here what we're seeing is that the United States is also choosing a path of helping other countries in the Western Hemisphere to help with migration causes, and this way less immigrants are going to be coming to the United States. For example, Belize is going to announce an immigration reform, if you call it, to legalize migrants who are in Belize illegally or undocumented. The same goes for Colombia, who announced TPS for displaced Venezuelans. You may not know it, but in the United States, the prevailing group of nationals who are filing for asylum for the past couple of years were citizens of Venezuela. Costa Rica also is going to implement and continue TPS for Venezuelans, Cubans, who arrived to Costa Rica prior to March 2020. Ecuador likewise is going to host Venezuelans. However, this is not just the pledge of those countries to host migrants. What's happening here is, along these measures, the United States announced a very significant monetary aid to those countries to help them to host those refugees or labor migrants. The United States is pledging $314 million in assistance to Western Hemisphere countries who are going to implement various programs to help migrants from Central America and South American countries. But these are the measures that countries other than the United States are going to undertake. What the United States is going to do, you may ask, and I'm going to tell you. The United States is pledging to resume and continue family reunification program for people from Cuba and people from Haiti. It's going to also expand its agricultural seasonal workers program. It's going to expand its program for seasonal workers, those who are filing for H-2B, and develop certain guidelines on fair hiring practice for those people. The United States is also going to focus on humane border management. What does that mean? Well, I guess what they mean by this is that instead of detention, special detention with children, they're going to practice safe, voluntarily return of certain people who perhaps did not qualify for anything, safe return and assistance of return for those people who would like to return rather than going through the deportation process. Interestingly enough, the United States also says that they're going to implement an improved processing of claims by new asylum seekers at the border. I have to call your attention here that this particular plan of new procedure of how asylum claims at the border are going to be considered has been criticized by the immigration advocates. Why? Because the plan aims to streamline the process of one's asylum claim. And it's not always good because your due process rights may be violated if you are rushed into something, right? If I had to summarize this plan and its significance, I would say that this plan is rather a compromise that the Biden administration is undertaking in trying to negotiate further the immigration reform and possible immigration solutions. It's a very smart move because it very humanely addresses migration crisis and exactly goes to the core of the issue. Why people are migrating. Let's create conditions in their countries such as that people would not migrate, or let's help them resettle somewhere else. And if the Biden administration is successful in implementing these measures and assisting other countries in implementing these measures, and I would think that we're going to see the effect of this plan if it goes into action no sooner than about 6 months, then of course we will be able to seriously talk about taking the situation at the border under control and moving forward towards comprehensive immigration reform. This is, of course, a very optimistic view of this situation. You may share your views as to what's going on in the comments. And thank you very much for watching. I promise that I will share with you more interesting news as soon as they come.